And everybody leaves.
Is your mic on?
There we go.
Here.
Oh. It's like the chair of the fire hall.
Just never know what you're gonna get, Steve.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Is anybody here for public forum? I am. You are, all right. Step right up. State your name, age, and rank.
You want to know my my name is Alan Dahl, and I reside at 160 Fifth Avenue Southeast in Harmony, and I pay my taxes. Question I have this evening is, why? Because if you aren't at this meeting, I've been told that you don't have any standard or ability to go to any other meetings about taxes. So you have to be at this meeting. So I am here. I don't understand why this meeting for Harmony has to be so early in April. We, as citizens, have other things to do. We have income tax to pay. We have other obligations. And I only got my taxes yesterday in the mail about 6 o'clock. So two things I think should happen. Either it should be later on in the year, like June or July, so you have an opinion, so you have a time to go over them, or they should be mailed out earlier, February, something like that. The other thing I don't understand, when I got my valuation, they have the address for all of my properties on the taxes. The addresses are not on the valuation. So you have to go through everything, compare it to your taxes to try to figure out where those properties are. Okay, the other reason that I'm here, my parents bought our home in 1941. That's 82 years ago. We have paid the taxes every year. My father bought the property next to me in the 50s. I'm not sure just exactly when. We've owned it for 70 years. The assessor, I believe last year, took all of our properties around our house and made them all into residential lots. Now, the argument's going to be that the residential lots are plotted on the city plot of Harmony, which they are. My point is that my wife has used it for gardening. We have about 9 acres that is farmed every year and has been since I purchased it in the early 80s. It's not residential lots. There is no curb and gutter. There is no sewer. Most of it is too low for sewer. The only water that's there is a 1-inch line that we use for our horses, which were there in the wintertime from 1986 to 2019. I don't ever see the prospect of it ever being residential because of these proclivities. The other thing is, the only increase in the property taxes because of this for 2023 is $513, which may not be much. What I'm concerned about is Brackett Creek. For 2024, which I went through this afternoon, there is no change in the valuations. In fact, one went down, which I don't understand. Went down by $100. The rest have all gone up. So I'm here to say, I just don't understand why, after probably 70 years, that they turned this all into residential lots. It just seems to me not fair.
Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
We'll look into it. I would make a few comments. The county sends out the tax statements. And I think they're available online, the 1st of April. But I agree with you, in this month of April, it'd be good to have our meeting
Yes,
a week later.
yes, it would, or 2 weeks later, or 2 months later.
To a number of your issues, Jason's here, right? And I think he can speak to some of those questions during that hearing. All right, anybody else for public forum? Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion on the consent agenda.
I make a motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote on the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, Jason. Like to come up? Do we open this for a separate public hearing? We don't, do we?
Well, it's technically supposed to be its own meeting, call to order and adjournment, so, not gonna be too nitpicky about that right now, but.
All right, well, we'll open the Board of Appeals and Equalization meeting.
All right, so I did bring additional packets of the presentation for if anybody needs one.
I would like one.
I'll take one too. Thank you.
I got one. Thank you.
If you got an extra one, I'll take one. I'll take.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Okay. And you guys got that signed form?
I think everyone got that. Did you sign that?
No, I don't think I did. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
And remind me again, who are our two resident gurus on that, on our
There's-
council?
There's-
One of us.
One
Just one? Okay.
for now.
Yep.
Unless
Tony
we
was
get
the
someone
other
else to take.
Hope to send someone to
To
training.
training.
The training's online. It takes about an hour.
Oh, it's online? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Online, it takes an hour. There you go.
About that, I think,
It's been a while.
yes.
Okay, so I'll run through this as I can. There's a bit of information, not all of it is totally relevant to.
Are we online also?
We are online.
Could you
for-
bring your mic up
YouTube,
to
yep.
you? And you
Is
might
that-
have to
Is that on? Can we double check?
push
Push
that
the
bottom
bottom
button.
Does it-
See the light.
Yeah, as long as you got a light here, you should be good.
It's got the light, but it's
It's got a red.
still got the red
Yeah,
light. Push that
Tap
button
the
one more
button on the
time.
bottom. There it goes.
Get a green
Is
light.
it green?
Yep.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
All right. So as I said, I'll try to get through this as quickly as possible. I know you guys have an agenda ahead of you, so try not to take up too much of your time. But like I was saying, A lot of this doesn't necessarily impact the city of Harmony specifically, but it does impact your county tax rate. So it's important for you guys to have an understanding of what's going on with some of the other facets of the assessment. The first thing on the bottom of the first page is time adjustments. If you guys recall last year, I spent some time talking about time adjustments and how they impact our assessment statistics. If you look at everything on a whole, we have to make adjustments for inflating or deflating market. Everything is tied to January 2nd. So if a sale happens in May or June or August, we have to time adjust it forward to January 2nd. So with residential, the Department of Revenue calculated nearly a 13% level of inflation for our county. And towards the end of the study period, I observed a turn in the market. So I did file an appeal to have that reduced down to zero. That was successful. And that time adjustment was, like I said, taken down to zero. With the agricultural market, that one showed a inflating trend. There really wasn't anything to appeal on that one. And not only was Fillmore County impacted, but basically all the counties in the region. So that property type experienced a 17% level of inflation that was factored in. On the top of the next page, I went through a calculation for that time adjustment with a sample sale. At a sale in May of 2022 for $580,000, the new value on it is $636,000. That produces a sale ratio of almost 110%. So if you guys recall our median ratio, we like to keep it someplace between 94, 96, 97. For compliance, we have to be between 90 and 105%. So if that parcel held the median ratio, we would have been looking at a decrease. With the time adjustment factored in, and you can see the formula on the page there, that increases that time adjusted sale price to $644,300, which produces a sale ratio of just under 98%. So you can see what kind of impact that time adjustment does have on our sales. At the bottom of the first or second page, the biggest adjustments that were made across the board was involved this price related differential. If you guys recall last year, I spent some time talking about the three major statistics that we have to review for compliance. That includes the median ratio, the coefficient of dispersion, and the price related differential. Now with the price related differential, that's a measure of vertical equity, basically making sure that our sale ratios that are being produced by lower valued properties are consistent with higher valued properties. So there's equalization across the board. What we're seeing in our sales right now is what's called a regressive trend, where the lower valued sales were having sale prices below estimated market values. And in the inverse, sale prices of higher valued properties were above estimated market values. So that was something I chose to make an attempt to tackle for this year's assessment. On the top of the third page, the most common strategy to correct this regressive trend is to apply an increase to the whole base rate table and then find a fulcrum, basically like a teeter-totter, and start making an adjustment downward on some of the lower value properties. With the data that we have to work with, I'm obviously not going to throw my predecessors under the bus, but they were understaffed and there's some issues with the assessment that makes it difficult to address some of these statistics fully. And if you look at the graph on the bottom of page 3, that illustrates why. Typically in this type of situation, I would break down everything by gaps of estimated market value from 100,000, 110, 110 to 120, so on and so forth. And then I would make my adjustment based on those value ranges. Well, this graph right here shows our estimated market value versus sale ratio. Estimated market value is x-axis, sale ratio is y-axis. And you can see that that same data set that was on that first graph, when it's plotted by estimated market value, produces a trend line that's perfectly flat. So I couldn't go after this adjustment by addressing it through ranges of estimated market value. So what I did is I started exploring other options to put a dent in this statistic and get it closer to compliance. And I researched a bunch of variables trying to identify something that had some statistical significance to go after. The two variables that I did find was sale ratio versus depreciation and sale ratio versus actual year built. As you can see in the graph on the top of page 4, both of those had trend lines that were pretty pronounced. After my adjustments were made, and basically what it was is I increased our base rate table by 12%, and then I think houses 1930 or older saw, I think, a 12% decrease. 1930 to 1950 saw maybe a 9% decrease, and so on and so forth. So that's where I feathered that adjustment to try to flatten that out. And once again, I had to go by actual year built and the depreciation that was being used to flatten those out. Now, ultimately, this made a significant stride in correcting this non-compliant statistic. But as you can see in the graph on the bottom of page 4, both of those trend lines are perfectly flat right now, and there was really no more room for me to go after it any further. So the next step is waiting for the appraisal staff to complete their reassessment of the rest of the county, and as they continue that progression, this will keep getting better and better and better.
And again, these are county-wide, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
But the adjustment was applied to the city of Harmony, so.
Right.
So the price related differential specifically, it was at almost 1.08, 1.077 to be specific. And the adjustments that were made dropped that down to 1.05. Perfect PRD is at 1. Compliance is achieved at 1.04. So we're getting very, very close to compliance. Still a little bit of ways from it though. One of the peripheral implications of making this PRD adjustment is that our coefficient of dispersion also dropped pretty significantly. It went from 20.5 to just under 18. So both of those are huge changes that really brought our assessment to another level of equalization. So
What level is that supposed to be at?
that compliance with the COD is achieved between 5 and 15. So
Oh,
we're making
Oh.
steps in the right direction. And the COD, the same thing is applicable where it really falls in the hands of the appraisal staff to make sure they're getting around and appraising properties equitably. So with the sample of data that we have to work with right now, we've gotten basically a quarter, maybe a third of the county reassessed. So we still have quite a few parcels to go to, but I only have a staff of 4. Each one is responsible for roughly 5,000 parcels. They can only do so much in a given period of time. So on the bottom of page 5, you can see what a 1.05 PRD looks like in that graph. Obviously we're aiming for this trend line to be perfectly flat. We made some significant strides in the right direction, but we obviously still have some work to do. Moving on to the top of page 6, this is just to reiterate that if a jurisdiction has 6 or more sales, we have to maintain the median ratio at a compliant level. And then for any jurisdiction that routinely has less than 6 sales, that's where we rely on the 5-year small sample study. It's expected with this study that I acknowledge any kind of trends in the data and make adjustments to compensate. So at the bottom of page 6, you can see the jurisdictions that had 6 or more sales. Harmony is one of them. The median ratio Harmony did come in at 90.44%. And after the PRD adjustment was applied and any other adjustments, the final median came in at 95.91%. The 5-year small sample study on the top of page 7, this is where most of our work is happening right now. As you can see, there's quite a few jurisdictions that are below compliance. I've been working on pushing those up the last couple of years since I started in Fillmore County. And well, frankly, we made some pretty large adjustments to those jurisdictions this year to get them pushed back up. Now, the significance in maintaining median ratios consistently across the board, and that's why I shoot for that 94 to 97 range, is that while your city rate is dictated by what's happening in the city of Harmony, your school district and county rates both encompass tax capacity that expands outside of the city limits and also pretty much includes multiple jurisdictions. So if the way taxes are calculated, or your tax rate is calculated, it takes the levy of the jurisdiction or taxing authority and divides that over the tax capacity. So in a situation where City of Harmony is appraised, equitably at, 95%, and let's say Harmony Township was down at 70%, that means the residents in the City of Harmony are paying or shouldering more of their fair share of the tax burden. So I'm sure you guys probably read or saw the news on Ostrander. They saw some pretty significant increases. In a jurisdiction like that, the biggest impacts would have been if the increase was applied just to the city and they just paid their city rate. Really their tax liabilities probably would not have changed a whole lot. But because they also have the school district and county tax rate, those increases in value ultimately brought them, so they're picking up their fair share of the county and school district tax rates. And then jurisdictions that were appraised equitably, saw their taxes drop a little bit as those guys saw theirs increase. On the next slide, agricultural. This is going to have the biggest impact on the county tax capacity. We had 45 sales in our study for the 2023 assessment, and they were running a median ratio of 76%. That is significantly below compliance. And as I said in opening with the time adjustment, that market has shown that it's strong. And you can see in the graph or in the table in the bottom, PT 92 is your rural vacant land, like your wooded lots and stuff like that. PT 93 is your bare tillable ground, ag land. And then PT 95 also includes the 93, but it's improved agricultural property. All three of those segments were running ratios down in the 70s, so they required some pretty significant adjustments. It ultimately ended up increasing tillable ground by 30. And then with rural vacant land, if you guys recall last year, I talked about how all my data suggested that timber lots should be, our value should be around 5,000, but I hit 3,800 and I had to stop because our median ratio hit 95%. As the appraisers have been around and cleaning up that data and getting everything classified correctly, I was able to push that up to 4,300 and get that closer to where its actual market value is. But once again, it had to stop at 43 simply because my median ratio hit that 95, 96 spot, and we're already at compliance. On the next page, regional changes in value. This is agricultural. You can see that Fillmore County wasn't alone with the significant increases. Moore, Dodge, Steele, Waseca, Freeborn, Wabasha, they all saw pretty big jumps in value. Kind of already gave you a rundown on PT 92, so I'll skip that slide. Agricultural neighborhoods. when I started in Fillmore County, there was really no definition between any specific neighborhood in the county. And I think it's important to recognize the differences in the marketability across the county. Obviously, you guys can understand if you have some A quality land in Bloomfield Township versus, let's say, Holt Township. In Bloomfield Township, you have straight 80s or quarter sections. There's really no obstacles. Farmers can get in there with their bigger machinery and work the ground pretty efficiently. In the township like Holt, fields are a little more smaller. They're cut up. You have to worry about topography, other components that impact it. So typically that A quality ground isn't going to sell for as much in Holt as it would in Bloomfield. And that was one project that I started on this year, was differentiating those different neighborhoods. Now this project is just in its infancy. The appraisal staff has a lot of work to do to provide some definition to the different areas of the county and get that cleaned up. But I wanted to get us going on recognizing the differences in marketability. And ultimately what that's going to do is shrink up that coefficient of dispersion. Commercial industrial on the top of page 10. This is one that flat out scared me. Last year I talked about how our coefficient on the commercial property type was really, really big, and that it was essentially dumb luck that we were hitting median ratios at compliance or close to it. Well, this year we finally got, hit with a 70% ratio. We didn't have as many sales over 100% as we had in previous years. So this is a situation where I was faced with two decisions. One, either apply a 30% increase to every commercial property across the county, which would have most likely led to me looking for a job someplace else, or single out the areas that required attention and go after those. Ultimately, I took the second option, and the appraisal staff and we went after the city of Mabel. And if anybody's familiar with Spring Valley, the old Quick Trip North, the industrial park area, those are two areas that were producing some pretty wide range of ratios. So, and I illustrated that in the slide on the bottom of page 10. I know it's difficult to read, and I apologize for that, but you can see what I'm talking about. Where you have the grocery store that had a sale ratio of 99%, but then you got the Napa store at 30%, Matt's Body Shop at 48%, and another storage building at 52%. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about, where that range of ratios is really, really wide. And, I don't view that as acceptable. Typically, I'd like to see that go from like 80 to 100, 80 to 110%, something like that. But when you have that 70% range, it's definitely time to reassess that. So those are two jurisdictions that we reappraised, and by reappraising those two jurisdictions, we're able to restore compliance with that commercial industrial ratio. County impact. This is where all those changes kind of culminate into one number. The total market value of Fillmore County is going up by nearly $1 billion. We're going from just over $5 billion to just under $6 billion. So based on how I already defined how your tax rate is calculated, adding that much tax capacity to the equation should ultimately cause tax rates to fall. Just to illustrate my point, last week I was talking to a gentleman in Chatfield, and he was commenting on how I contradicted myself that his taxes still went up as a result of the changes that were made in Chatfield, even though I said the tax rate was going to go down. Well, I pointed out to him that with the 25% increase that was applied in Chatfield, that yes, the increase surpassed, the reduction in rate, but ultimately the tax rate in Chatfield fell from 159 to 142. So it is there, and it is happening. It's just that it's all dictated by what happens with, on the specific property levels and where that shift is going to happen. Individual jurisdictions, on the next page, on page 12, you can see what I did to every jurisdiction in the county and every property type. You can see City of Harmony. I applied the PRD adjustment, which increased the base rate by 12% and then feathered that reduction on the older homes. And then ultimately that that median ratio was still a little higher than what I wanted to see it. So I applied an additional 1.5% reduction to the whole city. It's just making sure that those ratios are equalized to where I want them. The 5-year small sample study on the bottom, you can see some of the changes that were made. Once again, as I said, there was some pretty significant increases to some of the jurisdictions, and that was strictly to address that 5-year small sample study that was illustrating values below compliance. So regional changes in value on the top of page 13, I threw this in. This is residential across the region. And you can see Fillmore County, after all the increases, decreases, and everything was said and done, we ended up with just under a 4% overall change in residential values. That's what I prepared for you. I appreciate the time. If you guys have any questions, I'm completely open to answering anything you have.
So if someone does want to appeal, they can just give you that notice tonight.
Well, they would appeal right now and then you guys would take action on it.
Okay.
So,
I thought last year you were doing something where they could appeal and then you would reassess them or check the
that's
valuation.
an option for the board. If somebody was to appeal and you guys have the option of recessing the meeting until a later date, and we'll have Justin and Kayla go out and review the property, and then they can come back here and report back to you guys, and then you can make a decision on the property. Or you can vote no change, and then they can go perform a similar function, and the appellant can just take their appeal to the County Board of Equalization in June.
Sure.
So the options are at your discretion, how you choose to handle it.
So they do have that option too, to go to the county.
Mhm.
I have a question.
Okay.
This price related differential doesn't look like, if I read through the interesting wording, it doesn't look like. there's
Which page are you on, Brad?
3. There is no factor for where the home is located. It's just year built and your square footage and whatever amenities.
For the PRD adjustment, yes. That was across the board. To address individual cities and jurisdictions, townships and stuff like that, that's where I reviewed the statistics that was being produced by Harmony on its own. And, probably the best example I can give you is that the PRD adjustment was not applied in Chatfield, nor was it applied in the city of Rushford, because the PRD in those cities was already at 1. So with Harmony, the PRD was at a point where I felt it was subject to this adjustment. And then after that adjustment was made, that's where I looked at the median ratio that's being produced by the sales in Harmony and made the adjustment to address that level of assessment.
So, I mean, I don't know if I'm unique, but I don't think I am, looking at some of the stuff online. But I think ours went up 10%, which was quite noticeable after last year's increase on value. And I have guess I would call it 3 junkyards in training as my neighbors.
nuisance neighbors, there's no way our house could even be considered to be worth, if anyone would come to look at it, they'd laugh in our faces if we tried this. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not living,
I don't know, when we got,
not naming any names of whom I'm sure is, everyone on this council must be aware of the property.
There's a
we're
few
talking
others.
about.
we got,
So I guess,
you know, unregistered cars that have been sitting in the backyards. A half burned up Suburban that got burned up when the garage burned down next door.
I don't know, yeah. I mean, and it goes, so if our home is just basic, what was built in this year, this is many square foot, it's right across from high school, which, you know, there's parking issues, can't really park on the street during school year. And then we've got these nuisance properties around us, and that was not taken into consideration when you know, it's just every year. It keeps being assessed more, and it doesn't make any sense.
With, you know, so on one hand, it's either falls on you or it falls on the people behind the desk over here. Somebody
That's-
needs to do something.
Right,
That's
because
two
it's not,
options.
it's
With
not a
the-
reasonable
With
assessment,
the,
given the givens, you know.
with the nuisance properties that are around your property, I have no idea where you live and, yeah, I've never been there. But, But with that kind of adjustment, we need sales data to support that kind of an adjustment. So, I don't make adjustments just out of gut feelings. Okay? Well, you think about it, if I go around and just start randomly, you know, picking and choosing without fully understanding the implications of market activity, that's gonna hurt equalization. You look at, you know, I apologize for using something from so far away, but where I came from in Jackson, those wind turbines, they were a huge issue. And there's quite a few people that, you know, would attend local board meetings and say that, you know, the shadows that are being cast, the noise would hurt the marketability of their property. And I told them the same thing, that I need some type of market data to identify an adjustment to apply to that. Well, after a couple of years, and we had a couple sales, we found out that buyers were willing to live with those wind turbines.
Yeah, and I
So that's
understand.
why I can't jump to conclusions on a situation like that.
Granted,
It's something that I would say, yes, it could have an impact on the marketability of your home, and I don't know how bad it is. You can't shake your head at me because I don't know your property.
yeah,
Okay?
I think exactly.
But at the same point in time, you gotta understand where my position comes in, where I'm all about researching everything to the nth degree. And I will find an adjustment, but I need sales data to identify that. Right now, I haven't been able to pull anything out of the market that would warrant an adjustment. If there's something that's applicable, that's great, but this type of situation, this is typically, I would defer this one to your city council, where they can, whatever they feel is the obsolescence caused by those blighted properties, they can make an adjustment for it. But I will say that, you know, it's something that they can apply the adjustment to your property. But for next year's assessment, if we're not able to identify an adjustment dictated by market activity, you know, this is going to be, you know, a reoccurring thing where you have to appeal until we have market data to support the adjustment. And that way, because the thing that concerns me the most is setting a precedence. You know, if I just randomly say, okay, I'm knocking 30% off your house value because, you know, of the obsolescence that is created in that situation, then what's the person, you know, half mile away that, you know, has a situation and they say, you know, well, my property's in a similar situation, and then, but how
how close is it to? It would behoove the people on the other side of the table here to do something. We could minimize that.
Oh, yeah, because there's some very nice homes in Harmony that sell for, good money and they're attractive homes. But they don't have the same lighted, as you put it, homes around them. So when you're looking at the sales data from the city of Harmony, you're looking at, you're comparing apples to oranges in my mind. It's, okay, so great, we sold all those nice homes that were just those new builds over there. And so the Harmony's, growing and their houses are selling for good money. But then we're stuck in what should be a nice home and should be worth what it's assessed at, but it's just, and as my husband said, it would behoove the people behind the table if we want, to keep this fair, to do something about the blight that is bringing down our home values that can't be recognized by the taxes.
So what I would say to that is that's the next step in our process is those properties have been identified. We have to take and go by ordinance to deal with those properties. Yes, I don't disagree that they may bring the value of your property if you were to go to sell it today. Would you get what you want for it? Probably not. I wouldn't disagree with that. But just know that we are looking at those properties. We are moving forward. It takes time. It's a process. It's not a fast process to deal with them.
Yes, we can't go clean it up. You understand that, right? We can't go to somebody's property and just start doing things.
I guess what I
We send them
don't
letters.
understand is how is it allowed to happen? There's something that is so egregious.
I would say, so you're not the only one in Fillmore County, period. There's other properties throughout other communities. I would say that we are probably one of the better ones. We only have, the properties next to you look terrible, don't get me wrong, okay? What I'm saying is we have limited number of them, where other communities have exponential of those properties.
It's throughout.
we'll grant you,
it's
you have a
throughout
majority of
town. Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
yours, all of them are right in your
They're
neighborhood.
concentrated.
Correct.
Which is why we could not understand. We're like, you gotta be kidding me, right?
But-
Have they seen where we live?
Rest assured, we're working on that. There's been complaints. There's a process and we're moving
There's-
forward with it.
There is, so since I have been put into this clerk position, my chair should not be black, it should be red. Because it's kind of a hot seat some days. No, and further down in this packet, we have a whole new process going into place. I've been working with Attorney Shaver. And it's a process and it's a lengthy process. I mean, you're talking, not just talking weeks, you're talking sometimes months and you have to work with people. So, and we'll address that later, but,
The other thing is,
but it's on, I mean, just know that it's on our radar. It's not something that, and it's not something that we take lightly either.
it didn't get
so-
there. It didn't get there yesterday, but the problem is
It-
that I think it hadn't been dealt with for a couple of years. The problem didn't just arise.
Yeah.
This has been a problem for a couple of
You
years.
didn't build Rome in a day, so.
It didn't
Yeah,
get dealt with.
yeah.
probably when
I
it
would
should have.
say, I would say
But-
we didn't allow it.
Yeah.
There's no way for us to prevent these things.
Right.
Once they happen, we can start taking action. But there's, for somebody to let their house,
Jesse, this might be a question for you, but I mean, a lot of those vehicles, there's probably 8 of them. Do they have current registration on them?
The one that concerns me the most is the one that's the most visible, which is in ill repair. And that, it does fall into our ordinances and those things. Now, what I will say is I think the process was started last year, but it got left alone, okay? Not by anyone's neglect or not wanting to pursue it, it just maybe got forgotten. There is a process, it gets our office involved, it gets the attorney's office involved. The steps have to be followed in order for us to possibly, if they to charge them with a violation of public nuisance and those things. there, and I haven't looked at the ordinances lately that pertain to that. I used to know them pretty well because I worked all the contracts here. And it's something I think we're looking at possibly putting more teeth into is those public nuisance properties. So it's not something we take lightly, but we're really driven complaint based, unfortunately, here with those. And that's the way most communities work, is it's complaint based. Yes, we drive by it and identify it, but if we identify one, then the next person is saying, well, you're picking on me. So then we have to make sure we identify all of them. I think we're doing some council member is going to do a city tour or 2 council members and identify not just that property or that we've had complaints on, but other properties that maybe fall into that same category.
We have a whole city tour actually coming up. I'm working on scheduling that. So it is a process and it's something that we do every year. The city does this review and then there's follow-up. So we just have to get to that.
And I've talked
Point.
to a couple people, you know, because I mean, those properties are pretty notorious and I mean, you know.
Okay.
And several have expressed to me that they're afraid to call and complain because, or they can't come to city council and complain because then everyone will know that they were the ones that complained about those properties. And
So,
then the people will resent them, yada, yada.
And-
So
okay,
that's
so-
difficult in a small town.
so further on after this, there's a whole nother policy and procedure that we're gonna talk about and put into place because of that reason. So addressing it. So, yep, heard about it, addressing it. So we're getting there.
Jesse, I want to try to get a yes or no answer. Can we have vehicles that are not currently registered on the property?
They have to be currently registered, I believe, per our ordinance. but
That would be against the ordinance,
Yes.
yes. And then when it's against the ordinance, we can send them a letter. And then if they don't comply in a certain amount of time, I think a
Then it-
citation can be issued.
Yep, then it's a citation, and if it goes beyond a citation, then it's council action and further, then it just furthers on with the legal process.
Well,
If it
We go
even
to court.
gets to that point.
I mean,
That-
that's where we end up is
There's
court.
gotta be
End
at
of
least
the
8 vehicles between those 2 properties.
Oh, minimum, yeah, minimum, yeah.
So,
No, and I know you're encompassed by them. I drive by on a regular basis and see them, so.
Well, and some of them are.
Rest assured.
Yeah.
correct.
I'm
Correct.
Even I.
Yep.
You know, but I'm just sure that raccoons or whatever's gonna move and, you know.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, it is,
Totally understandable.
yeah, anyway.
But rest assured, we're working on it, working towards it. Hopefully they'll get cleaned up this year. I won't make any guarantees though.
You guys have a.
Yes, Alan.
Oh, just a second.
Oh,
Probably
never mind.
just parcel number or address. Oh, 55 First Avenue Southwest.
Our house looks nice. I like it. Windows are private.
There's several that look nice. There's just several that don't.
Yeah.
Street, there's the,
So.
yeah, I mean, and there's one, I mean, I don't know if the landlord's just.
And, you know, I would qualify what they said as an appeal that you guys probably should act on, so.
Well, then technically, we'd probably have to do the whole neighborhood, and I think you had an issue with, I mean, if we just lower everybody's value. I had an individual sent an email and said they were looking to move to Harmony, but saw those properties that you're mentioning and decided they would not want to live in Harmony. And I'm like, well, there are, I think I could go to a lot of different towns and find very poor properties. So I think if somebody's going to look for a city where there's no problem properties, it's going to be a tough find. But if we lowered all the valuations in town, it wouldn't change what people pay in taxes for dollars. If all the valuations went down the same way. But the assessor wouldn't let us do that because then we would be paying less than the other cities. And We can't reduce all the valuations in town by 20% because we have,
You guys can act
Blank.
on a single parcel. You guys cannot make changes to a group of parcels without representation at the meeting.
oh,
So
okay.
you guys are within your right to either make some type of recognition or vote no change. And, you know, I can see Justin there just chomping at the bit to dive in and start researching this one. So
He was through our house.
Exciting stuff.
Yep.
He
And
knows
we're
the
at this.
property.
You know, the property.
I'm not talking about going through your property again. I'm talking about seeing if you can find sales to identify some type of adjustment that be warranted.
Oh, well, you know, one of the blighted properties
Was
sold
one of
for,
the last sale.
was one of the last
Well, it's
sales,
not-
and we left ourselves
it's
sick
not-
at the sale price.
It's not
Couldn't
the,
believe it.
it's not the blighted properties that we're concerned with. It's the homes like yours around it to see if those are impacted by their proximity to those houses. So,
But just like you said, if a blighted property sold for more than you would ever imagine it could.
It wasn't blighted until they bought it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
I see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, so if you go to comparable sales, well,
Hmm.
it's like, well, this one sold for that much, which we left for a week, we couldn't believe they made that much for the house in the first place. And then they went and, you know, and the person, well, never mind, this thing, we're just asking,
Yep.
not to consideration, appeal the evaluation of every home in Harmony, just the assessment of homes due to the circumstances of.
so have you done any research to identify what kind of impact that would have? Have you talked to
The
any
only research I've
realtors
done
or?
as a home buyer, I've bought many homes in my life, and I'm agreeing to buying a house with any houses within 3 blocks, and what that looks like that.
Well, I think what Jason's getting at is what is the percentage of reduction that,
Oh, that, oh, you know, but that's.
of the valuation,
Yeah, I don't know, he doesn't.
you know? Because you're saying nobody would buy it, but somebody would buy it, and what are they willing to
Oh,
pay
yeah,
for it, and
they
what is
work,
that
you know,
difference, you know? So,
Yeah, I don't know what you would consider reasonable.
I think you would rather see us take care of the blight or make progress on that.
That would justify, you know, that would justify, absolutely, that's what we're saying, you know, it's just like, why are you raising our taxes when our surrounding properties are bringing our home value down? You know, that's what we have, you can take care of the blight. We'll be more than happy to go with the raise in taxes, but not 5 years from now, you know?
well, we hope that it doesn't take 5 years. I hope that it doesn't take 2 years, but it may take a year. And they-
Pretty close to 2 years now.
Well, like I said, no action was done
Yeah,
for a couple of years. Whether, I think they got sent letters and that's where it was dropped. No fault to anyone necessarily sitting here, but it happened, okay?
yeah, I mean, and
I think we will, with the new policy, with the new procedures, with some of the new council members, I don't think that will just drop. I think that there's enough foresight to say, let's keep moving forward with it, however that is. Do we end up at abatement? Do we end up in the courtroom? I don't think it's just gonna, out of sight, out of mind, type of thing. So,
So with that in mind, Jason, you mentioned that you could reevaluate the property and then come back for another meeting, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the options are open. I mean, you guys can take action right now if you wanted to, or you can vote no change and, or if you guys recessed and, you know, we just do know, we bring back the information and,
Can I put some words in your mouth to what Michael said? I don't think you would look at that property and say, oh, because of the blight, we're going to lower the assessment, correct?
we need
You need
we need to
sales data.
identify an adjustment to apply, and, you know, I'm not confident that we would find an adequate sample of sales to identify an adjustment. And that's where it falls more on your guys' shoulder, because as I, referenced to the appellant there is that, with this type of situation, if you guys did make a reduction in value for the 2024 assessment, we would have to remove it unless we find some type of justification to maintain some type of obsolescence on that property. So,
Well, and I guess that's the other thing we should probably mention. This isn't for payable taxes in 2023. This would be an adjustment to the 2024 payable
Correct.
taxes.
correct.
So the blight, I would hope would be cleaned up by then. I'm not gonna make any guarantees.
Alan?
I was told last fall, December, by a client that there's an ordinance in Fillmore County, anything over 3 cars is a junkyard. Is that true? Which this could apply to, I would think.
Well, that would be a county ordinance, not a city ordinance.
Okay.
If that would hold true. Now, I don't know that there is. I don't know the county doesn't have much for ordinances.
Well, this guy was in the county.
So, could be, I don't know the true answer to that. But I don't know that we have a limited number in our ordinance, but I know that unlicensed, unregistered, inoperable would fall into that.
I don't think we currently do have a number. It's something that, if the council wanted to look at that in the future, we could definitely put a number in there. But that's another topic of discussion.
There is a reference in an ordinance about how many vehicles can be, how many parking spaces you can have. And it needs to be gravel underneath or concrete underneath the parking spot.
Not, belong.
Not just parking in the backyard.
Well, you also can't park in your front yard, so.
Right.
Per ordinance.
For your side yard.
Where you see, yeah, exactly.
So. I don't, even if we were to try to make an adjustment, I don't know what that number would be. And Brad and Ann don't have a percentage either, so, to me, I think the next step is to
Work on the blight.
work on the blight, which we need to work on. Do a no change and let them appeal at the county level, or what other options we have. Because I'm not comfortable doing a reduction with some arbitrary number either.
Just for minutes and everything, if I can get a motion and
I'll make a motion of no changes.
we'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of no change in the assessments? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. But thank you. I think we have a call to action and we've already had discussions on it. And so we will be working on it.
Are able to put together something a little more quantifiable before.
I think my goal is to continue the appreciation of that.
But all 3 of those properties surrounding you are an issue, and I know they've been identified by several other residents. So they are a problem.
And there are a couple others too.
Correct, there are others too.
That's not just the only ones. There's more. There's more. We're working on it. We're working on it.
Alan, did you have any questions for Jason?
Do I appeal? Can I appeal?
Yes,
Mhm.
that's what we have this meeting
I'm
for.
writing down the properties for which I'd like to place an appeal.
Okay.
Because you need to know those numbers, right?
And what are you actually appealing? The value of the assessment?
That it shouldn't be residential,
Or the zoning?
right? Or whatever they did.
Are you saying the zoning changed this year?
I think it was last year.
Okay.
Their argument will be that it is plotted as residential. But I'm saying it hasn't been used as residential or deemed residential for about 70 years.
Well, with the classification of the property, there's specific requirements for it to be classified agriculturally, if that's what you're referencing. You have to have 10 acres in production, or it's an intensive use. If your
Yes.
wife's just using it as a garden, it's not going to,
It's used as corn,
how many
raised
acres?
corn there,
How many acres?
about 9.
You need 10 in production, that's written in statute.
Need 10.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'd have to have a survey. Where you know how many acres it is.
I don't, not off the top of my head.
No, but you would if you looked at your map.
Well, it's production acres too. It's
You know,
not
it
just
has to be
total.
10 acres in production. So if you have a house on the property as well,
There's no house.
I don't know, I was just saying. So,
Is that the property where your, like, the little horse barn is?
Yes.
And there's woods on that property too, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
So in that case, it seems like there'd be need to be some research for us to take action on an appeal when we don't really know the specifics. Jason?
Also, the feasibility of water and sewer.
Well, that
Because
could,
you can't have a septic tank in Harmony.
no,
So if there's no feasibility for water and sewer, how can you build them?
you got,
well, that doesn't mean it's not residential.
Pardon?
you got a parcel number just so I can look at it?
I have 9.
Well, I just need one, I just need to know where it's at.
150-225-000.
So you're appealing the classification of residential versus agricultural. Is that what I'm understanding, Alan?
Well, whatever. They changed it to raise the tax. And what I'm afraid of,
To raise the valuation,
right.
Okay.
That's what they raised was the valuation, and I'm afraid of bracket creep. Because it isn't gonna go down more than likely. The other thing they did, which I don't understand, they changed the frontage from one side to another. They either made it deeper or they made it shallower. Which seems to me after all these years, they should have known what the frontage was.
so that must have been the county and the assessor's office, because the city didn't make
No,
any
the city
changes.
didn't do it, no.
But we really can't change anything if it's a county.
No, we can't call it agricultural.
No, and some of his property is currently zoned R1
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
anyway. And
So is
per
it-
the city.
This,
Yeah.
the zoning doesn't matter to you.
Is
just
it-
When you're picking classification.
The zoning comes into play with the valuation of the parcel, because when we look at, for classification, we look at how the property is used. Okay? For the valuation, that's where we look at the highest and best use. And the highest best use is what's legally permissible, physically possible, economically feasible, and maximally productive to the parcel. So Do you own the grain bins to the,
I do not,
okay, so your property is just that little field that,
to the west of the green.
okay, so I'm coming up with about 3.2 acres. And that's including the area with that, it looks like an old barn.
Yes.
So even including that is still at 3.2 acres of productive ground, so.
I think he's got a whole bunch of stuff with him on law in that spot that are part of that field.
He does.
But what if it's,
Are
Jason,
you talking,
Well, yeah, I took that whole little L-shaped, L at tillable.
I think it's more than 3 acres.
Well, that's what I measured with.
does some of that to the east of your house,
Best I
Alan?
have right now.
To the east of your house, you own some of that behind you to the east, right?
Yes, I own east of my house and I own everything north of my house to the highway.
Right, and some of that tillable is right behind your house, right, that you're using as tillable acres?
No.
No?
But I'm not including the property along Highway 52.
Okay.
You got those first movers.
Yep.
Those guys.
but I'm wondering if the assessed value is considering those as developable residential lots, like he was explaining, and that, and you're saying they're not because they don't have sewer and water and they don't have, right?
And I think it's too shallow for sewer.
Can I just take this with me?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you.
So if you can't have a septic system, how can you build residential?
Well, if you were going to build residential, the city would come up with some sort of a plan. I don't know if we can allow a septic, but,
Well, they didn't for my Millwoods.
well, we would never want to. We would always say, whatever it costs, you need
Because
to,
the cost was.
you need to join the sewer.
Correct.
Yeah, the cost was, I
Yep.
don't know what it was, it was something huge.
I mean, there are people that have pumps that pump their own, so.
Well, I'm just saying, after all these years, I think it's unfair.
Okay.
Regardless of all the other considerations, I think it's unfair.
How much was the valuation increase?
I didn't add that up.
Okay.
I just added up how much the increase in taxes were. I could do that for you if you wish. Would you like me to do it?
I think to make any sort of informed decision, we need more information on this, to be honest with you, Alan, even if we were gonna do it, some sort of reduction or reclassification or whatever.
Can they table this until there's more information gathered
Yeah, they
To make a
can- they can
decision
Recess.
and
this
recess and come back? Okay.
How long do we,
I think you have 20 days and then you have to,
make an action?
so we'd have to set a reconvene date and go from there.
And that's only on the single property. It doesn't allow others to come in or,
If you were to recess and reconvene and somebody else came in and I would suggest hearing them. I mean, it's because technically your local Board of Appeal meeting is still open.
right.
So it's not, it's only when you adjourn it is when,
But if we didn't have the information then, we couldn't adjourn again for another 20 days. could we?
no, it's,
We'd have to make a decision based on the information we had.
Yep.
And that's part of it. And is that the earliest the county gets out the assessments, the tax thing? They're going to be March 31st?
we send out
Seems like
our,
we used to get them sooner than that.
I'm I'm thinking the postal service had something to do with this because we had confirmation that our vendor mailed the valuation notices and tax statements in the last week of March. So,
Well, I was looking online
yeah.
and it
when-
wasn't there March 30th.
Well, that's because we post them April 1st.
Okay,
It's an automatic update that they get just loaded up on that day.
Okay.
So no, it's this one. Yeah, it's, I hate to, push the buck off on somebody else, but
Mhm.
our vendor did state they mailed them. I think it was on the 27th or 28th, something like that. So we met what was statutorily required of us to get them out in the mail.
Mhm.
Now, with the delivery date not happening until, like in Alan's case, not happening until if, he can, let's say he didn't show up tonight, if he's able to document or prove that he didn't receive them, there's a 5-day window before this meeting. If he can prove that he didn't receive them, then he would still be eligible for take his appeal to the County Board of Appeal and Equalization, even though he may not have appealed at this meeting. So there are basically safety nets to catch issues like that.
Mhm.
So,
But if he appeals to us, he can still go appeal to the county also.
yep.
Is there anybody else that wants to appeal? Who's doing figuring?
I make a motion to table
Then we should, well, I'll wait for a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Then I suppose we should set a date within
We
the,
have to set a date.
we have to set a date within the 20 days.
it. 20 days, May 1st. Yep. May 1st will be 20 days.
Do you want to entertain Alan's question or comments?
I did it
Okay.
quickly, but it's 46,800.
That's your increase in value on all your parcels, right? On those 9 or whatever you have.
On your 9.
On 9 parcels.
I have
And
to
it-
do it over again.
So it went from, 48,000, if it was
46.
currently, it was previously at 5 million, that wouldn't be very much. But if it was previously at 50,000, that would be a double, right? So what was the
It went up 46,800.
So here's,
About, I'd have to calculate.
Let's-
46.8? And what is the current valuation total?
Didn't have that.
so let's just do this. Let's finish this motion,
Let's table this
table it.
and do
or
all the
go into
research and bring it
recess,
back.
Get the research, come back in less than 20 days or right at 20
Yes.
days and have all that information compiled so that we can make a good informed decision.
Fair enough.
Okay?
All right. Any more discussion? So first we'll table it and then we'll set a date for the resumption. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I would say the week of the 24th through the 28th, somewhere in there. I don't know. For a meeting, the reopener. What's your
Well, let's,
what's
I
your
would, I would suggest the 25th at 7 PM,
I can-
April 25th.
Works for me.
Works.
We need a motion.
I'll make that a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Does anybody else have anything for our equalization hearing?
Good.
If not, we're tabled.
Recess.
Pause.
Recess. We get to go to recess, Steve.
Recess. Did we all get to go up and play? We got playground equipment. Thank you, Jason.
Oh, of course. Thank you, guys. I'll get up to shake some hands here shortly.
I see Randy Barnes isn't here,
He's not.
but we have the information.
You do. And we kind of briefly discussed it. And of course, what I highlighted did not come off on my printout here.
Well,
But you
is
guys-
everybody aware of the situation?
Yes.
I don't think we need to
Okay.
discuss. Does anybody want to make a motion?
What, I got a question before, well, I don't know if you want to do it during discussion or what have we done in the past for some of these? I know if we know that they go through the meter and we can't identify a source, we don't forgive anything.
So typically, if we've been convinced that it had to be or most likely was, and
Thank you.
Thank you.
very,
Thank
very
you.
much most likely, then we would forgive part of the sewer. There was one time that happened it was in the garage and spilling out into the out of doors, and somebody went and looked at it. I don't know if it was the administrator or one of the city guys that said, yeah, it looked like it most likely was an outside faucet. And so we forgave them down to the normal sewer amount.
So I just want to make sure that we've done, that there isn't a precedence where we haven't forgiven this, what's being alleged here type of
Mhm.
situation. So I guess I would make a motion to forgive the overage in sewer above the normal use.
And let's, if you don't mind, maybe stating the dollar amount of forgiveness. I think the number I saw was
275.
like 275. I'm not sure if,
Is that? Let's see.
That's what.
that was assuming that
That
they
was-
just had typical use
Correct.
for the 2 months, other than what would.
Correct.
Sure.
And what I did was I took the average sewer rate, obviously add those together, divide it by your month, you get your average. I took the average off of the build rate and it's
I did.
277 and 13 cents or something like
Did we get a
that.
second though?
I'll second.
Kind of started. Okay.
Do you want me to amend my motion to include the dollar amount of
Yes.
$277.13?
Well,
Well, no, just a,
He was
just
only
a,
just a number, so
A
we
number.
just have a specific number rather than saying, figure out some
Because-
kind of average. So I think we should err on the side of not giving too much relief.
Right.
Because who knows, there could have been higher use
right, we,
than normal. Obviously not enough to explain that many gallons.
not
That had
enough to explain 14,700 gallons or 20,400 gallons.
Mhm.
So the average usage at this residence is 1,460 gallons a month.
Which is what I thought. So you want it on that 146 gallons average or what? I thought I did the average.
Oh,
Well,
sure.
What I was kind of looking for is a 250 or 270 or 275 or some,
Correct.
just a number we can forgive.
$275.
You agree
I
with
will
that?
second that, yes.
Okay. Any more discussion? Hearing none, I would just like to say there was a fair amount of research into this and we're fairly confident that this was the case. We have had a lot of people. I could have been one of them a couple months ago.
He
But
got
I
a phone
came
call
home
from me
and I
that I
heard
said
my-
your water usage is very high. Mayor, you got something leaking.
It was a couple $100, but it went down the sewer. So
Correct.
there it was. All right. Hearing no other discussion, call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Conservation Club, liquor license and noise permit.
So once again, this year, the Conservation Club for their 4th of July celebration, filled out the application. They'd like their noise permit from July 2nd through the 4th, Sunday through Tuesday, noon to 1:30, and liquor license as well. And to use the parking lot.
Till 1:30 a.m.
Yes.
Oh.
Rarely are we making noise that late, but just in case it happens to, I doubt it this year with it being on a Tuesday, they're gonna get too crazy, but
Well, I think normally the noise ordinance is to stop the band.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, the band, I don't think has ever played past 1,
right.
Mhm.
and that was because they were heavily enticed to keep playing. It was a good time. And to use the parking lot, the city parking lot behind the bank there.
Yep.
I'd make a motion to approve the noise permit and liquor license and the use of the parking lot.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. You got all that? Your
Yeah,
secretary, your
I-
secretary too tonight.
I am. I'm kind of a wild day. I'm like, yeah. Yeah. I got
Any
it.
further discussion on that? Thank you to the Conservation Club for doing that. So,
Yes, and we'll be having the Buck Hollow Band, Sunday, 4 to 7,
Ooh.
after the car show finishes up at the distillery. And then we'll have DJ Digger Monday night, 8 to midnight.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
On your,
Fireworks.
I was gonna say, on your agenda, yeah, we just,
It's just
Got the
requesting
attachment.
to approve purchasing these or putting it out to purchase the fireworks. It's increased a little bit over last year, which doesn't pertain much to the city council because it's all done by donations through the fire department, conservation club, community fund, or Chamber of
First-
Commerce,
First Bank,
the bank for Southeast,
for something.
and others that may contribute to this. So simply, it's just to move forward to purchase these or have them start building them basically so we can guarantee we got.
Yeah, and usually, and typically when we put in an early order, I think in there, you notice like a 15% off loyalty program. They give us a little bit extra. And then there's a discount for early payment too. So
Good.
um,
Which is all built into this.
I think it's all built into the package here, so.
Good.
It's-
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the fireworks.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Oh, they did change. We're going from, the only thing I would say is we're going from 1.5 to 2.5 inch mortars, just to get them above the trees and a better show, hopefully. So,
And those are the smallest ones.
yes.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Still here, Brett?
Still with us?
On Friday, April 7th, the city opened up quotes that they received for the steel coating project for this upcoming year. We solicited quotes from 3 contractors, got quotes back from 2 of them, Pearson Brothers and Farner Asphalt Sealer. We got back the both quotes from Pearson Brothers for $44,549.38. That's the area of town that Brian and I had worked together in putting together for this year's seal coat program. you guys put money into that every year and it's divided into 4 different funds. This would be coming out of the fund that hasn't been used for the last couple of years because we've been doing other improvements. That fund currently has right around $95,000 in it. So after we pay for, if the council moves forward with this and we pay for the 44,000, all 4 funds would be sitting almost equal at about $45,000. So there's plenty of funds to do the work that we're choosing to do. But Brian and I identified what we want to do, put out for quotes, and they got this back last week. So I guess Brian and I are looking for approval of the 2023 seal coat approval.
I would make a motion to go with the low bid for the seal coat improvements.
I second.
Have a motion and a second to accept the low bid for the seal coat bids. Any further discussion?
I'll just mention that the low bid is from Pearson Brothers. Pearson Brothers are the people, they're the contractor that's been in town and probably done your last 8 seal coats.
Yep.
And we did spec out a 1/8" Class A trap rock, which is the dark gray.
That's the one we did last time
Sleek
too.
looking. Yep.
Yep.
It's a very good product. It's less dusty than the other stuff we do in the past.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brett. Did you have anything else for us?
Brian's not here, so I was gonna speak on the video sewer, and then I didn't know if you guys wanted me to be here for the fire hall or water discussion.
Probably wouldn't hurt if you stick around for those.
All right. We have a new volunteer firefighter, Brandon Roeder. Or is it Reader?
Raider.
Raider.
Just need a motion to approve him. I guess I can make that a motion to approve Brandon Raider as a new fireman.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Complaint policy and form.
Yeah, in here, and we've talked a little bit about this tonight. I've received various complaints in the last few months. I have talked with a couple other city clerks in neighboring towns and saw what they did. Just fielding them by phone, or if they come into the office. It's for me to document it and to maybe have a little bit more teeth into our complaint process. I wanted to have something a little bit more concrete and in writing, just so it wasn't just me reporting this, so it didn't. And you know, you guys, I know I get called on the ambulance calls, so if I'm not done documenting something and something else comes up with the same with the property or issue, or other my other colleagues in the office, they don't know what I'm working on. They don't know where things are at. So what I would be doing is we would have a complaint form, a complaint process. Each issue is going to have its own form. They will come in. This gives our residents, if they identify a problem, a complaint, a concern, they want us to take a look at it, address it. It also gives them room to request a suggestion for remediation and how they think it should be fixed, right? So, so we're getting also our resident buy-in as what they would like to see done. We have a section for city use, when we received it, who we referred it to, if it went to planning, if it's a planning and zoning issue, if it's a utility commission issue, or if it was a council matter, where it went. So I'd like to implement this going forward. All complaints, concerns, requests come in via this form. we have a new employee, Rory, who is pretty savvy with some of these forms. So
Oh, good.
I'm hoping to task him with a few things, maybe even online. And we did just go through a website update to where we maybe could receive some of these. They could be submitted online into our email. So a little bit more user friendly for our residents. But, you know, if they do make the complaint or they do make a concern, everything is confidential, of course, until, if we were to say go to court, correct, Greg? We could potentially call them as a witness, and use this as some of our leverage. So,
Make a motion to adopt the policy in form.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt the policy. And is that including forms?
and the
or we
form,
don't
yep,
And form.
policy and
Forms can change, I guess.
Mhm.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Citywide cleanup. Lisa was working on this. I wish she was here to talk about it. We've had a couple of people that would like to do a citywide cleanup again. We've had a couple of inquiries about it, how we would maybe go about it. Refresh my memory, Jesse, on the gentleman up by Preston that does the
Don Door.
Don Door. Yeah, they had gotten in touch with us too. That they would be willing to come up, set up in the parking lot, and for a fee would take away appliances, refrigerators, stoves, whatever. We did get a quote from Richards. They will do it same as last year, go around curb. Whatever they don't pick up, could we set up another day that maybe Door, or same day that Door could come and set up in the parking lot, or however we see.
Hopefully Door can come on the same day to do the appliance.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, yeah. And so Lisa had been working on that, and I think Door had the 24th open.
Okay.
I would just have to double check with her and get back with him, so.
I guess I would make a motion to go ahead with the garbage day cleanup, citywide cleanup with Richards, and hopefully Door can be here that day too, from 8 to noon.
And last year was on, the reason why we're kind of getting ahead of, I wanted to bring it up last month at the meeting and spaced it out. But we wanted to get ahead of it this year. It was a little bit late last year, and it was on Father's Day. So there was a little bit of holdover from last year, so.
I'll second that.
Great, we have a motion and a second to have the citywide cleanup June 24th. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Visu Sewer.
So this is the sewer line down behind the nursing home that has some cracks in it. That needs to be repaired. Brian got 2 quotes for lining. I don't know if you ever got a quote for Al to dig it.
We did 19,500.
What's that?
19,500, and it wouldn't be done until this fall.
Right. So,
And that was a replacement.
yeah, it's
Right.
digging and replacing. Yeah. So this Visu sewer is a liner. Don't know how soon they would be here to do it, but sooner than Al would be here, obviously, to dig. It's a little cheaper, so
What was Al's date?
fall.
What?
Fall,
Oh, fall.
That's a complete removal and replacement
so,
versus just a lining, correct?
Yeah,
yes.
it's a cured in place liner, and so they use the existing clay pipe as a mold for the most part. They pull a sock through, they blow it full of hot steam. It expands into the existing space and then cures out. You pretty much line your existing sewer with a new sewer. It's all done through the manholes. There's no restoration of the ditch. There's no seeding. There's no disturbance. There's no traffic control necessary. It's just done.
And the durability of that is good,
Great.
good, great. And what was their quote?
19,200, 266 is the Bisview
Oh, about-
for lining.
about
So it's
the same.
cheaper, it's a little bit cheaper than Al's, but not much.
Mhm.
And the other troll pole was way out astronomical, so that's why you only see the one. So I would make a motion to approve the lining by Bisview sewer for that sewer main.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? So that I would assume that's a recommendation from the committee.
Yes.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Industrial lot parking. Guess the issue there is we have allowed semi-trailer parking there. And now with someone who has a lot out there and is going to be doing the building is requesting that there is no longer parking on that. Well, in the industrial lot.
So what I would say, and I've been on long enough and kind of remember how that was established. Now, it was not established by ordinance or anything like that because I think our ordinance prevents semis from parking on the street. What we did is we identified, because we had drivers that drive and park at home for a period of time, gave them a place to park for that period of time that wasn't in the city. Because I think at that time they were talking about the trailhead parking lot and all these other areas. And if you have reefer trailers parked, I'll be honest with you, I don't want a reefer trailer running in the back of my yard at night. Nobody lives out there, well, except Erica.
Sorry.
But hopefully it's far enough away that it doesn't bother her too much. Most of them park on that north-south portion of the industrial park. Probably the most throughout my years that I've seen there is 4 of them parked there at one time. There is no parking on the east side of that street and the north side of that street. If you're gonna do that, what I would suggest is finding an alternative location for them to park. Most likely in the industrial park, because I don't think we have anywhere else in town to do it, which would take up a saleable lot.
And I'm not sure what, what other cities do, but I think a lot of cities just say there's no parking on the city streets for semi-trailers.
Some do, some don't.
Mhm.
And the EDA was talking about other possibilities, but we didn't come up with anything concrete, so we decided to throw this idea out there, maybe give it a month or two, and then see repercussions. But in the meantime, think about possibilities for those trucks to be.
I would rather have a plan coming forward to solve the solution than coming in and saying, let's just, not let them park there and not give them a place to park.
Yeah, and
Because we've allowed it. I mean, that is the one thing that I will say, even though it wasn't done by ordinance, we, as the city back at that time, and I worked here as a contract deputy, it was done for that specific reason, to keep them out of town.
and we did that because those lots were unsold.
Correct. But we didn't do it by.
Now they're
ordinance.
sold.
So, correct.
The ordinance only restricts parking in residential areas.
Okay.
So they're permitted just automatically. But the city council can regulate parking on any street at will
Mhm.
as well.
There's none out there right now today. There was a trailer and a tractor, which were 2 separate units that was out there over the weekend, but,
Yeah, and I don't know if it's going to be an ongoing problem for that the new owner out there that requested that, but he's talking no parking on that side.
Of his,
And I think,
or on both sides of that.
I
street.
think on both sides for that distance, which would allow it elsewhere. Because it's not residential, right?
Yeah, it would somewhat restrict it because of ethanol products, trucks coming in and out of their parking lot.
Mhm,
So you'd have to be careful there
mhm.
for them to make the swing. There's limited space. I know Roger had his toy hauler parked there part of the weekend, but I see that's backed in along his building.
Again, some of our conversation, if I can chip in, was about an industrial park to promote industrial activities. And to date, this hasn't been a problem because there's been a good chunk of it that's been unused. But as there gets to be more activity and hopefully sell additional lots, having trailers parked there, trucks and trailers parked there, especially long-term, which some of them are, could be a hindrance to the activity we want to promote out there. So that was the context, and Michael's right, we didn't come up with a grand solution. We talked about it at length about, is there a responsibility of the city in this case to find an alternative? Or is that going beyond what we need to do in this case? And, we didn't come to any grand, easy solution there. The council may have other ideas.
We decided it would cost us a lot to build a parking lot
Well,
for,
I think that's the reason back when it was allowed back there, I think there was discussion related to creating one of the lots into a semi-trailer parking lot. Two reasons I think they didn't do it was we're taking up a lot that we could sell now, making it city property, which absolutely.
Mhm.
And then the second was we have to provide infrastructure, we have to gravel, we have to do things for them to park there, so it costs us. Not only do we lose the sale of a lot, but we also provide money into doing it, so.
I thought of the road south of the care center.
That's in
Obviously, you might
really
want to
bad
say,
shape.
what's that?
That's in really bad shape.
Yeah, they can't hurt it. They can't hurt that. That's worse than gravel now, so. And you might say,
First come, first serve.
oh, definitely. And then, well, that's the way it would have been out there.
Yeah.
too, so. And refrigerated trucks, I don't know if that's,
Well,
that would be a problem there. or not.
Shouldn't be, I mean, the nursing home's there, but. Would they complain? I don't know.
For temporary, because that's I think that was a recommendation from EDA to have the no parking out there on that road. Was it was both sides, wasn't it, that we were discussing?
Yeah, we recommended prohibiting semi trucks and trailers entirely
At the-
throughout that both stretches of that roadway, with the exception of loading, unloading, temporary.
And we also made the recommendation that the signs that say no parking come down. Is that correct? There's signs out there that say,
So how do you enforce
We're
parking?
just, yeah, we have to put up more no parking signs. If we're gonna enforce no parking, we're gonna, on this side of the street, because it's a no parking on this side of the
'Cause
street, we would
if-
have to put up more,
So
correct?
if you're not gonna
Right,
allow
but what-
semis to park there and you have park, they
But
have
the
no
peop-
signs to prohibit parking, you can't prohibit semis for parking.
We need different signs, we need
Correct.
signs obviously that's
Right.
identified.
At the
But
entrance.
we didn't think it was necessary to go to the extent of prohibiting all passenger vehicles. Although that could be debated too, whether that's relevant.
I don't think, I mean, Erica's got a parking lot, everybody else has got a parking lot that has normal business.
Well, we do definitely overflow
You do,
onto road
absolutely.
parking when we have special events and on busy Saturdays, so.
Right.
But they're not overnight, they're not blocking, Poet still gets through just fine, and
So I think if I was gonna sign it, I would do no overnight parking. Easily enforceable because it's sort of no parking from 10 PM to 8 AM or whatever.
And because it's been allowed, it might be good to have signs stating that at each entrance.
Because what I fear we're gonna run into, and I think the reason why it was established over there is somebody decided to park said semi in a residential area, which then caused a complaint, and we dealt with the complaint, but then they're like, well, I live here, where am I supposed to park my truck? I can't park it there, type of thing, so. don't
Again,
know
I
that-
think cities are famous for, yeah, I mean, during
Some
during
identified-
snow emergencies, the cars have to be off the street. Well, where
They
can't
are,
just
but I mean, if you
magically.
take Preston, for example, they park down along the old Preston area, that's where their semis park, Spring Valleys, they think park out in the industrial park somewhere. Chatfield, I don't know, I
Mhm.
haven't spent enough time in Chatfield, but there are some cities that do allow it in different spots, and I would just, we can take it as a complaint basis, if there's somebody that drives a semi that, needs a place to drop their trailer, drop their truck and trailer.
I also thought of the tree dump.
Yeah, that's where I
It's
was-
a lot of that heavy equipment from the
Yeah.
cable
Oh, where
installations.
where
was
the old
parked
horse
out there.
arena used to be,
No,
or
well, along, and, yeah,
Yeah.
kind of part of it.
Where
kind of
the-
part of that,
The,
yeah.
the phone office,
Yeah.
their contractors were
But
parking
then
out
are
there.
we gonna plow the city, in the wintertime, are you gonna plow that where you would normally plow the city street there?
Correct.
I mean, I get fully what you're trying to do, I think we need some, whether it be temporary solution to move them somewhere else or ban it or not allow it at this
Else-
point and then wait till we get somebody that can claim it and then
Mhm.
identify a spot. I guess we can do that, but
I also thought some of them used to park along in front of Morham's and Peterson Brothers and Han Lumber.
they might have.
on that
I
frontage
don't
road?
remember that specifically. Could be. So,
So are you just willing, or were you making a motion to say no overnight parking out there?
I'll make a motion to do no overnight parking in the industrial park on the street,
I'll second.
All vehicles or just semis?
all vehicles.
I would just clarify that.
Yeah,
Since we're talking
Yep.
about both.
so no overnight parking in the industrial park streets.
I second.
For discussion, are we going to instruct the city crew to do anything with signs up there or signage? Should
We're
we
gonna
get
have to,
entrance signs,
we're gonna have to get signage somewhere up there to let everybody know. I mean,
no overnight parking? I would think the two entrances would be a good place to post it. Then the officers would have the
it would fall under the parking ordinance, so we'd be good there.
give them
I think
the authority to ticket.
so. Probably as part of that, no, maybe that's a certain, well, we can do it. We'll just get signs. We'll have to order them, I would guess,
We have a
do that. But
fine company that we get those things from.
All right. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Fire Hall Waterway. I didn't know where the lot lines exactly lie
I don't think anybody actually does.
in relation to where the water flows.
According to GIS and any other application that you use that gives you rough lot lines, it shows that it's probably closer to the tree line until it jogs to the south than it may be, but the new purchasers don't know exactly where the lot line is. I don't think the city knows exactly where the lot line is.
And it's not the city's water. right? Comes from a farm field.
No,
Comes from a
our
farm.
storm drains, if you look at the, I don't know if the map's up here, but the storm drains,
All the storm sewer from Trunk Highway
Comes right here.
139.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was
they
gonna say
come
they all,
down 139 and then dump into that culvert and it flows through there. So we are creating some of the problem. I was
Oh,
saying
definitely.
creating all the problem, but probably a good majority of it.
Especially on the heavy events, yeah.
I met with Al Torgerson out there this morning. Al said he did the work last time and built the city is what he believed he did, several years ago. And he said that there's about 3 feet of silt and garbage in there from when he did it last time, he figured.
Okay.
So in your packet, you also see a quote from him for $2,700 to redo that. Basically reconstruct the waterway, bring it back to grade and make it flow like it's supposed to. The property owner is willing to take some of that sediment and put it on their field where some of the erosion has happened.
Okay.
Unlike it sounded like last time, that was not the case. So at least according to Al.
And this is something that should probably be done like every 3 to 5 years from how it washes and fills back in.
Mm-hmm.
Al thought it was maybe 8, 9 years ago since he did it last time, and it's pretty much a pond on one end and a pond on the other is where it is.
Sure. Well, it sounds like a efficient way to tackle it. Just do this and then next time it needs it, clean it out again.
Right. So the recommendation from the utility and the board is to have Al do the work at $2,750. Well, I don't know when he's going to get to that for sure, but I would hope.
For fall.
Well, before planting, I would hope, because I think they want to plant the field here.
Right.
So
I think, from what I understood, I think that was gonna be sooner than later
yes.
to get that done.
And I'll second that.
Okay. Any further
Who
discussion?
made the motion? You made the motion.
Been around the whole way.
Jesse made the motion.
Okay.
Should we put a timeline on that? To kind of give
Let's
Al
just, I know the
impetus.
new landowner was there today when we met, and Al was there and Brian was there, and so I think, I'm not sure we need to, but maybe we can, through Brian and Kyle and myself and the other landowner, we can make sure that it's done in an
Good.
appropriate amount of time.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Wastewater treatment plant.
That is their,
Hmm?
that's just their
Nothing there?
monthly, yep, they're just, their monthly report, just reporting to you guys, what they've been doing. I did hear back from them, actually them as in, I heard from Terry, this morning, because I was looking for him, and he said it's Tuesday, it's wastewater school. They're actually doing, every Tuesday morning, they're doing some meetings, different wastewater treatment plant, review and such with, Rick, so.
Okay.
All's going well.
EDA,
And I don't think I had a report from him, unless I completely missed it. I might have. I should have.
I
had
think the
minutes.
parking was the,
I think the parking was more of the EDA part, but. That's it, and then, I'm not
do you recall
sure.
anything of importance?
We got updates on the bike trail funding push, and there was since last time, there was a hearing that was held on being included in the bonding, or the omnibus bill, or bonding bill, I forget which.
It's bonding,
Bonding.
the bonding bill, I
Good
think,
stuff
right?
Along the way, so talked a little bit about that, the no parking thing. Talked about, just in brief, doing another experience harmony survey of some sort, details to be determined later on. Yeah, spent some time just getting other general updates.
I guess I got a question for the EDA. When is this gonna be groundbreaking out there at the industrial park? When is he gonna start building?
Mr. O'Connor?
Yep.
We were told, the report we got at our EDA meeting was they ordered the lumber,
Okay.
so. I think in matter of months, whenever that would.
Mhm.
Exciting, good.
But I would say we don't like have a handle on that or,
Okay, it's already done past
or,
the EDA's part.
yeah.
You'll just build it as.
Yep. Yes. Harmony Chamber? Nothing? Okay.
It's her placeholder.
Just in case.
Just in case she comes in with
Thank you
something,
for
you
being
never
here,
know.
in case we wanted to yell at you.
Just in case. Park board, we just met last night.
Did you have that? Yes, we did. I think one of the biggest items is the splash pad, 2 of the splash pad things.
We just had those and I didn't get those on the agenda for today.
The sidewalk, the low bid for sidewalk quote to connect the playground
Playground.
equipment to the splash pad and then splash pad to the shelter was $4,950 or somewhere in that.
4912.
49.12, okay. Glad you took notes because I forgot mine.
Might be the first time.
So that would be, the park board approved to have that work done and bring that forward using either a match from the park board's budget or city general funds to do that. With that being said, I will talk about the other item before we entertain
Take
a
action.
motion
Okay.
on that, and that is the proposal for a new piece of equipment for the splash pad, which total was 56 something.
56,
and that
50, I
included
think, was
shipping.
with the shipping, and 5660 was with the shipping.
Which included shipping. The park board made a recommendation to allow the splash pad committee to use the funds that are currently in the account here with the city. There was a donation that's coming, so it should come in for almost 2,000, if I'm correct, Steve, from the
Mhm.
Lindstrom's.
Yep.
Which would cover the piece of equipment. So park board was allowing them to use their existing funds plus their donation to purchase that piece.
And I know they intend to approach the Lions Club. So with that one, I'd like to say that we would use that 3,900 up to that amount.
So what I would say to that would, if they continue to fundraise and it goes into that account, they would just have more money in that account for future equipment.
Oh,
purchase.
future,
yeah.
okay.
Yep.
So basically what we'll do is we'll kind of keep that
In the splash
in the
pad.
splash pad fund, and then we'll just keep a revolving account open with that and keep track of what they do have for when those funds come in. If they want to make improvements and do
Good.
different things, if everyone's agreeable.
Because if they do this feature, I think there's only room for 2 more.
Yeah,
bigger
something
I
like,
think
something
so.
like that, yeah.
But then we would keep that fund and that account open, and that activity open, and we would just, so if they receive more donations and we receive that in and they've identified something else they want to purchase, then we can go ahead and do that.
And I don't know a specific day, but I think we were thinking Memorial Day weekend to turn the water on at the splash pad, unless it's super warm before that, but, and then ribbon cutting is June 5th.
June 5th.
With the chamber and whatever groups are involved in that. There's talk about maybe trying to promote it during the 4th of July, and then there was another group that was talking in August, right?
The community foundation
There
is
you
right
go.
there.
Yes. So those are kind of the things with the splash pad in that area. So if we want to deal with those 2 issues first.
Well, I think, so if if the park board's saying the splash pad ad hoc committee can make requests for that $3,900. There's nothing we really have to do except approve purchasing the equipment.
Correct.
Right,
Yep.
it would just come out of that fund. I
Okay.
mean, we don't
Yep.
have to deal with that, but we just need to approve that, but then we need to deal with this sidewalk issue
Mhm.
too, so.
So is that a recommendation from the park board to
Yes.
take that bid? I'd make that a motion to accept the $4,912 sidewalk bid. How wide is that sidewalk?
5 feet. It's
Oh.
105 feet of sidewalk, 5 feet wide.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And then I would make a motion to approve the purchase of the new piece of splash pad equipment.
I'll second it.
And for discussion, that does include the shipping.
Yes, it does.
So they talked about having somebody bring it. And I thought, oh,
Yeah.
if-
Are they
What if this
responsible for,
big
are they
piece of-
responsible for damages too?
It's about-
I feel better about
Yeah.
a delivery company.
Yes, probably have something to go back on them. a little
Yeah.
bit.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
So then the other thing we did talk about, we're soliciting bids for the resurfacing the tennis court, and restriping the basketball court for the Rutgers League. We did we're going to allow Mingo to paint lines temporarily until we come up with a permanent solution, or more permanent solution, so that they can start the Rutgers League on time. We did discuss there was a request for a curb cutout down towards the playground equipment down here with the library or Cardinal Park
Cardinal Park.
playground,
Would you call the league, the basketball league?
Rutgers League.
Rutgers League.
Rutgers.
So,
All right.
Yeah.
we basically took no action on that because that there is 2 curb cutouts currently down here, and then you would have to restripe for handicap parking and all that. So I didn't mean to throw that at you.
Are the tennis courts, what are they, the bucket ballers or?
Pickleball.
Pickleballers?
Pickleballers, yeah.
So I found 3 different companies to do resurfacing. We just have to get like the linear feet of
Oh,
ours
okay.
and kind of give them the condition of our court. So these companies will do tennis, pickleball, and basketball. So they will do.
Oh.
So I was hoping to try, when I do the quotes, get the resurfacing and the striping, and then the striping of the basketball court all in one quote. If I could do that. So they'll do pickleball and tennis on the one, and then they'll stripe the basketball court separate. If that makes sense.
So then your job would be more temporary.
Yeah,
Yes.
that would be great, 'cause it's not gonna be
Because he's gonna have to
perfect.
repaint like
Keep
every
the
week.
pressure off.
Yeah.
Pressure's gonna be on.
So we'll make sure that that's all regulation
Thank you.
when that gets done. But
Good.
Yeah, so they do. I found 3 different companies. The closest one we could get was actually all 3 of them are out of the cities. So nothing anything closer.
Mhm.
The summer help is the next thing that I would like you to talk about.
Yes, so we did, this park board make a recommendation to hire Ellie Hirschberger and Anthony Keeney,
Keating.
limiting them each to 30 hours. The reasoning behind it is we feel that there's more work than one person, because the one person gets on a mower, or waters plants, gets mowing, does mowing, garbages in the parks and that stuff, and that doesn't leave them a lot of time to deal with any other issues like raking pea gravel back on the playgrounds, picking up sticks, weed whipping around things.
Painting hydrants.
Painting
is
hydrants,
one
we
thing
talked
needs
about
to be
that, how
done there.
they need to be painted this year. The gazebo at Selvig Park needs to be restained this year, so some things like that, so.
And Anthony, I think, had a couple of trips this
Yes.
summer, between the church and then the band going out to LA. That's what I was thinking.
So it would
So-
eliminate some of the city
Yes,
staff
spot, yep.
filling in that, and I think that we would see probably a reduction in wages for the park board possibly. But that's a recommendation to at least try it with 2 summer help employees this year and then reevaluate for next year.
Okay.
So we would entertain a motion for hiring Ally Hirschberger and Anthony Keeney.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Oh, any more discussion? Good. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That's a lot for a
That's it.
board. Wow.
It was
Yeah.
a lot, I know.
That's good.
It was a lot. It was an hour and, no,
No, just short of an hour.
just short of an hour. We got that all done in 1 hour.
Good work. Library board meet?
Library board met yesterday. We discussed the difficulties of the northeast door not being consistently unlocked during library hours, especially during the winter when the patio is blocked off. There's different possibilities that we're considering, and we're going to probably bring up something soon in the next coming meetings.
So,
We've talked about,
so we were talking specifically during library hours.
Yep.
I think there's the ability for library staff to unlock that door during library hours, because they lock it after library hours.
correct, they lock it after library hours.
So I don't
But-
see,
I guess the other difficulty is that, especially during winter, when the patio is blocked, there is difficulty in accessing the drop box. And that would be anytime. And
this door is open 6 AM to whatever
yes,
time it's locked.
And we have,
Right.
an
It's
indoor
controlled.
Dropbox.
right, we have an indoor drop box, but there is talk about getting that door consistently unlocked when this door is, which we talked about there being a timer and the finances for that, which might not be this year, but coming up.
Is that something that, so Custom Alarm, they have a box inside, our inside office here. We can solicit a quote from Custom Alarm to do another door, but at that point, then would it be feasible just to do all of them? And the other thing that I have concern about is that we do get kids and people in here, maybe necessarily not in the most good intentions sometimes, and we end up kind of having to, police the hall, so to speak. So I guess from a city office standpoint, I see a concern with that.
Are they talking about just
Just
having
the one door.
They have the current door at the end of the hallway
That's the
is
one-
open.
That's the one that's issue. That's the issue is
Oh, that's the
That's
issue,
the issue.
not the
is that
patio,
it's-
not the patio.
Not the patio
No.
door.
Right.
Oh,
No,
okay.
because
So it sounds
Just-
like the issue is more that they want the access to the drop box being all the time. And I would say that
And the
95% of the people that, I'm not saying go to the library, that enter this building come through this door for other uses. Again, if it fails, then we have other issues. If it doesn't, if we limit ourselves to one entrance, we can control it a little bit. There are kids in this building more often than not. We've had walls fall down and other things. So I think if we limit it to the hours of the library operation, they can access it through here, which is a controlled environment. It's not a hard walk. You're not walking any further, really. To do it, I guess I would leave it as is, and library staff can unlock it during and lock it after library hours.
So that's, we haven't decided anything, so I'll bring those things back, but we'll be discussing it further too. So,
That's fine.
Yep. Library board would also like to thank Alan Dahl as we got a new Dropbox outside, and funding for that was largely provided by him, a little over $1,100. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Alan.
Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
Where, Is that place so it's accessible on the inside, or have we done it yet, or?
Yeah, it's installed.
Okay.
And
So
that,
it's access inside.
correct. Yep. And then there is a library meeting or library event tomorrow as well, 10:30 a.m. at the library. Kent William Kruger, I believe, will be speaking.
Did he write a book?
He's written a lot of murder mysteries. I
Oh,
guess. Yeah, and gotten quite a lot of local attention, I guess. That's it for library.
Arts Board?
Arts, no updates. We will meet this Thursday, 7 p.m. In here.
And everybody sees the sheriff report. Does anybody have anything else for our meeting?
I got one last thing.
It might not be the last.
Yeah, maybe not. It was brought to my attention from Amber and Dana Cody and Tom Young and his family. There's a new light that was placed at their place on Second Street. They're saying it's really bright. Anyone else caught wind of that or?
I've gotten a
noticed?
couple comments from that as well.
Didn't know if that's something that can be adjusted or if that light is just gonna be bright.
It's just a regular street light or it's a
Probably
extra
went from a
special?
halogen to an LED.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a new LED. I talked to Kent Whitcomb
Okay.
about that.
Can it be, is it an LED? I guess, yeah, it's just gonna be what it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's a new.
Got it.
up-
Just wanted to ask and see what.
Unless it's unless it's a design we maybe don't want. I mean, is it like the other ones? I mean, the ones in my neighborhood, when they first came in, I was like, oh, I don't like that, but now I
think
don't, now I don't care.
it's, you know, it's obviously a different light. I wouldn't say it's any more wattage. I don't know that specifically, but.
I can check into
LED
it.
light
I
is
mean, I
different.
can, I
I mean,
can
yeah.
check. I mean, LEDs,
are different.
my dad being an electrician always told me, and I said, why is that light so much dimmer? He goes, what color is it? He goes, I said, well, it's orange. He goes, your eyes pick up on a blue light
Versus that.
versus the orange a little bit
Yeah.
more. But an LED is bright. I
If you
can,
wouldn't mind.
I mean, I can check with Kent to see if there's anything, but it just might be something that,
Get used to.
energy efficiency, because we're always being forced to be more energy conscious and energy efficient. That halogens are not environmentally friendly or efficient. It might be something that we're just forced to.
There's a lot of lights now, they have them so they only direct the light down instead of
Mhm.
up into the sky.
Yeah, and I don't know how these, I would
Yeah,
hope that they're flooding
haven't
this
seen
way, but I don't know.
they were saying, yeah. it
Are
was
they
shining
flooding
into their-
down? I'll
Into
have-
their house, they said, the light's going into there, so maybe it just needs to be.
So that light is on a
Corner. That is at Cody's
It's a-
corner. That's the
yeah,
new
the
pole
corner,
with the
but
new
it's on
light.
the end of a alleyway.
Alleyway,
It's the
yep.
alleyway.
I don't know how many other lights we have in town that are on the end of alleyways. I don't think.
Every alleyway that I've noticed in the middle has a light. And I don't know if that's a regulatory thing. I don't know if that's because it is a roadway, or if that's just where those lights ended up having to be.
Gotcha.
And then with light disbursement, are you required to do, I'm not sure what there's any requirements.
I think I,
Yeah, I don't think there's requirements, but it's just whatever the city decides to.
Yeah.
Where they put them.
Go black. Take them all out.
Well, yeah,
I got one you can take out.
I got a couple.
yeah. I got one on the trail that we could take out right outside my bedroom window. It's an LED.
Yes.
You're right. I will check with Kent though
Thank
and
you.
just see.
Well, maybe the counselors can drive by and if they have an opinion.
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. No.
I'll drive to that. I have not been by that one. But check on it. I don't know.
Good seeing you too.
Trim looks good.
I mean, I can see where it's getting lost.
Easier maintenance and stuff.
That's all you can do, something.